I call this meeting to order at 6:01 p.m. on February 9th for the Newbury Recreation Committee. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
List of members. Mr. Dempsey, we start us.
David Dempsey.
Salim Muldowney.
Mike Volpone.
David Roll. Lucian Dunsmore.
Mark Fan.
Thank you all very much. I don't know if anybody got a chance to read Mark's last minutes of November 4th. I apologize, I did not from the last week. Just a lot of things going on, so we're going to push those to the next, unless anybody has any questions or was able to go through it all.
Make a motion to table the minutes for our next meeting.
Thank you.
Should we second and vote on it, or is that just as is?
Go ahead.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Table to the next meeting. Bills and claims, I don't think you had any more. Old business, the two main things we wanted to go over tonight was the applications that I emailed earlier today to you regarding for Triton Youth Lacrosse, Seacoast Flag Football. I have received, since our last meeting, I have received Triton Youth Soccer and Northeast Soccer as well. The only conflict we ran into between the normal three that had been there was Field 4 was requested by both Triton Youth Soccer and Northeast Rush. Fields 1 and 2 are, as of right now, were requested by Triton Youth Lacrosse. Fields 3, 4, and 5A was by Northeast, and Fields 4 and 5B, I may have those backwards, by Triton Youth Soccer. So the only conflict we have is Field 4 before we address the soccer thing. So, Jason, do you have a clarification on this, please? I got to do this official. I apologize. It's not that I want to. I'm just trying to do the right things. Just come up here. You can name and
All right.
organization and stuff.
Jason DeRosa, Triton Youth Soccer.
Thank you.
During the weekday, Fields 4 and 5A is Triton Youth Soccer.
Yep.
Field 3 and 5B is Rush.
They had put it on their application though. They wanted.
On Sundays, Rush is asking for Fields 3, 4, and 5B only on Sundays. So 5B, Field 4 is only requested on Sundays.
I apologize. You are 100% correct.
We don't use it on Sundays, we use it on Saturdays, in
Yep,
which
and that was the trailer.
we use Fields 4, 3, 5A, and 5B on Saturdays.
Thank you.
So there shouldn't be a conflict.
No, you're right. I'm wrong, and I appreciate that very much because when I was looking at it real quick, I saw the Sunday thinking we had that issue. So, based on the three applications, we do not have any issues regarding the time. The only question is going to be is how do we fit in Seacoast Flag Football if we choose to do it. They asked for it in the spring or for the fall, but missed the deadline. They were more than ahead of schedule this time and are looking for Saturdays, one field, did not get specific, or a space if we can use it beyond one of the fields on Saturdays from 8:30 in the morning until 5 at night.
It's a little disappointing that they're not here to be part of the conversation because it's hard to get input from, particularly from them as a potentially new permit holder. I just don't know what kind of flexibility they have.
They are very flexible because I met with them in the winter and I actually met with Jason. We went out, the three of us went out to the field and looked around to try to see if there was a way.
Okay.
So it's really either a field or there is a section down by the signpost at the end that would be close, depending on how we treat. I think there's room. It's just a question of how much room between the end of the field and the soccer field for Field 2?
Yeah.
Field 2 in that area.
You mean between Field 2 and the center system?
Yes.
You went with Jeff and looked at it?
Yes. It's close. It's just a question of carryover. If we moved Field 2 and Field 1 up, we could have the room. The question is there enough room between the fields because Triton Youth Soccer has or in this case it would be Triton youth lacrosse would have the issue because of having the distance between the fields.
I have a question.
So-
Yeah,
Sorry. I
Just
can't
move the
see
chair.
you from across the room. Lacrosse has their games on Sundays, right?
Right.
And so the Saturday reservation is mostly for whatever practices are scheduled. So, I mean, I would think there's probably, how many teams are there in lacrosse?
I don't know what the numbers are this year, but let's say 6 in each division, boys and girls, so 12.
so there
And they don't all have Saturday practices.
It's not guaranteed, no. I know most teams try to get a Saturday in, but I hear where you're going, and
Yeah.
I'm agreeing.
Okay.
I mean, I think it might be advantageous to start with, can we fit that area first?
Okay.
Here's my concern, one of my concerns.
We may, and I'm not, you interrupt you, based on the application, and you're gonna correct me if I'm wrong, Triton Youth Lacrosse does not play on Saturdays.
Correct.
You guys don't ask for the field, according to your application, you do not use field 1 or 2 on Saturday.
They don't use field 1 or 2 because those are lacrosse fields.
We don't use fields 1 or 2 on Saturday, because lacrosse usually reserves the
Yeah.
fields on Saturday.
Yeah, they have, okay, they do on
for their
Saturday, all right.
practices.
Yeah.
So then I
So the
stand corrected, so I
conflict is
just,
with lacrosse.
The only field,
or soccer, depending on what we do, because they're the only two groups on Saturday.
the only, two things. I think the only field that's available is 5A on Sundays.
You know, it doesn't, at this point, they're looking for Saturdays, so.
And
For Saturdays.
yeah, and I understand that. Saturdays and Sundays are the premier days because those are the game
Games.
days.
Yeah.
Lacrosse, Triton Youth Soccer, and Rush rent out the fields during the weekday in addition to use it on Saturdays. So we're using the fields during the weekday, but we all would love to just be able to use a Saturday or a Sunday only. It's, you know, it's hard if Rush, Lacrosse, or Triton Youth Soccer has to reduce their field time on a Saturday, because that's the premium day, Saturday or Sunday. Where we're renting it during the weekday, where, you know, that's usually.
So you're
the
saying you
low-
really don't need it during the week? Is that what you just said?
No, we use it, we need it during the week for our practice.
Okay, well, you said before, the only reason you're really doing is because you want the weekend, you didn't need it, so I just want to make sure I'm clear.
We have,
You need it during the week.
we need it during the week, that's what the application, we
Yep.
need, in the spring, we get pinched because with lacrosse, we've always worked with lacrosse. So we have more teams practicing on less fields. So the fields that we have, which is only 2 fields, is the bare minimum we can have. And then on Saturdays, that's our game days, where all of our teams show up on that one day.
Okay. Question. You guys may know more about the lacrosse. Because I know from the end of field 2, because when I was talking to Jason about it and for the winter, or the fall season, there was an extra amount of field for surrounding area for balls to go out of bounds. Does lacrosse have that same restriction or need? Because if they don't, and we could move lacrosse, for the spring at least, to get an idea, move them up, we could then open enough space at the end of the field by the septic and the roadway to make it fit.
How far up are we talking?
What is it, 15 feet? I think 'cause they need a 70 by 30. So 70 feet, 70 yards long, or it was 100 by 200 feet. So if they were right up against it, we literally marked it off, and there was a little bit of carryover based on the extra overage that soccer needed down the end of the field.
Right.
So there's got to be some kind of, for Seacoast, the flag football,
Yeah,
they would have to put their spectators on one side if the fields are very close to each other.
they'd have to be that, or they'd have to be on the other side of the road, because they would literally be right up to where the signposts go and stuff. I'm just trying to find a way to make this work, because one, if we do it in the spring and lacrosse has that flexibility, it would be good. because it gives us an option for two reasons. One, to bring another group in. Two, to also see what kind of field we're looking at. Because if we determine after the spring season that the cleats or the shoes that they're using really wreck the field, then we got a problem. If they don't use, if it doesn't get wrecked, then we do have an option that we can see how it can be done.
I like your rationale here. One of my concerns had been the overuse. It doesn't sound like it's a lot, but with the cleats and whatnot. I think if it's a matter of moving up 15 feet, and if my memory serves me correctly, sometimes it does, there's more than 15 feet between, which would be 5 yards, between the two fields. When you guys have, between your when you walk way through, do you remember how far that is? It feels more like 10.
I was gonna say, and I think we talked about it, it was like,
I think there's ample space to move, shift it up.
Yeah.
It's a Saturday, so it's not like it's a game day. I know with the girls, we try to, the younger girls, we go north-south versus east-west. So we're not into that area. I think we can move it up. And if it overlaps a little, we'll work.
I don't think it overlapped. I think that was the amount of space that was needed between the fields for
Okay.
balls that went out of play. They needed so much, and Jason, correct me if I'm wrong, because we had this conversation. There was so much the soccer needed.
Right.
I don't know if lacrosse does that same thing. But again, if they're able to move up just on Saturday, because if their game days are more, have to be Sundays,
Right.
then we be able to make this work.
So is that because there's like free throws in soccer and you need to have enough room to throw
Free
in the
throws
ball?
are on the sides. What happens is.
Oh, we're
fields-
talking about the ends?
Yeah, fields 1 and fields 2 are
Yeah.
butt to butt.
Yep.
And there's restrictions on how, the distance between the two fields, because you're bound to get balls that will kick past the end line. And they don't want a hazard or stoppage of play if a ball crosses the field. Plus, the big nets are 10 feet wide. So, you know, like if we're talking fields 3 and fields 4, you already have 20 feet of netting in total, 10 feet for each field, and then you have that little space in the middle. Fields 1 and fields 2, field 1 is a little bit narrower than field 2. Field 2 widens up a little bit at the front of the field house going towards the area you're talking about. That's why we always put like a 99 field on field 1 and a bigger field, which is wider, on field 2. We can't, part of it is we can't push it together because the way that the fence is, it takes away a little bit of field 1, just so you know.
It's spacing. It's just a question of how do we make, can this work?
Michael, I have a map of, an aerial view of the property
Mm-hmm.
Should've brought my-
with,
I'll
looks
have
like
it in
soccer
myself.
nets up.
Yep.
I just wanna make sure we're clear as to what we're talking about.
It seems like a lot of room in between the two fields.
So if you're talking,
Where would the soccer team be
Yes.
playing? Here's a,
sorry, I'm getting a glare. So, that's the field, the soccer field right now?
no, that should be the lacrosse field. You know, there's soccer nets, I don't know when that was taken.
Okay. They're trying to fit the flag football in here, into that stretch right along the road along in here. The question is, could we move this way enough to make space?
So that's the field house. That makes it
So if you're talking here,
It's gonna be confusing here.
this road area right along here,
What is the size of
they're
that?
trying to fit the flag football into this area down here.
Okay.
The larger field.
In there, and the question is, can we move
The
that
larger
field
field.
up enough just so we can get space
You
in?
see how much space there is between
120?
the two goalposts?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If we moved it up enough, could we fit it in?
Yeah.
And I think it may mean going back out and measuring it again with Jeff from Seacoast to say, could we make end with someone from Triton Youth Lacrosse, because they're the ones really gonna be impacted with it. It gives us an idea to say, can we make this work? Because what we wanna do is we wanna make this work for everybody. I don't wanna cause problems in regards to losing space and not being on one end, but I wanna get, but it also helps us out in regard to it, because you're talking games during the day and stuff to see.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of space on that field that's closest to the road, that you go back that way. Yeah,
So
there's a lot of room.
can I make a suggestion? I think we should be able to approve Triton Youth Soccer, Northeast Rush, because their fields don't conflict. I think we can approve Triton Youth Lacrosse and Seacoast contingent on a meeting down at the field to check spaces to see if it works.
Yep.
But I'm gonna need some people to come down with me to do it because I wanna make sure that we have an idea of space-wise it works. So I would.
So Seacoast is contingent.
Seacoast is contingent if we can fit it, but lacrosse is gonna also be contingent because we wanna see if they can do it, we make every work, great. If we can't, the question is, then we would have to come back to say, do we approve lacrosse and not Seacoast, or vice versa, which doesn't make a lot of sense for one day.
I think lacrosse has had the.
It's a Triton program, it gets
It gets
priority on that regards.
So I think you can,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
no,
Is the Seacoast flag football, are they using that field for their games or is
Yes.
that practice?
Games,
Games, okay.
One
So
day a
they
week.
are gonna have fans there, there are gonna be parents there?
that's
Okay.
what I would expect.
Yeah, okay.
And they'll be marking their own lines?
Yes,
Okay.
how are we for parking up there?
they could park down the end, because we don't want them parking up there anyway.
Yeah, the gates should be closed. My suggestion would be, we approve field 1, 3, 4, 5, and 5A and 5B. And just field 2 for lacrosse is the one in question. And if we can't fit the field for Seacoast comfortably in that spot, you know, and working with lacrosse, saying Seacoast, you have it from noon to 5, lacrosse, you have
Well, they want it from 8:30 to 5 is what they're looking for.
Okay.
So-
Well, here's the
They're
thing.
both looking for a full day. One,
Everybody wants that flexibility, but Seacoast, that program schedules their own games, so they can schedule everything at 5 o'clock, from noon on.
they have to. So I can reach out,
I mean, the thing is that, that's what they're requesting, we're trying to honor it.
Yeah.
If we can't, we go back and tell them what we can honor it. They
well, I
take it
think
or leave
it's
it.
gonna be contingent on,
Okay.
if we can move the field, and they're trying to
But
fit all these
If
games.
we can't move the field, and
Then
we
it's a whole
come
different
to
ballgame.
a compromise,
Then we
they
talk to
compromise
lacrosse,
and they take it or leave it.
And see if they can book their games or their stuff early in the day, and we have,
and then we move, I know practices tend to be earlier in the morning, so it's done. Games can be out throughout the day. Some people like the games later or midday, so that if you're traveling, you have time to get there, you're not getting up at
4 or 5 in the
Four
morning.
nine, yeah. So we just ask, my suggestion would be ask Seacoast, take it from noon forward, that's 5 hours. I don't think they're gonna have the Newberry flag football team having home games each time,
Mhm.
right? Because the home games are only, how many teams they have, 14?
14, yeah.
And they're an hour a game?
I think they're just under that, and they work the time in. So let me make sure I'm clear, so option 1 is to see if we can get lacrosse to move so we can fit the contingent in there. Option 2 is if we can't, try to see if lacrosse can work early, Seacoast work later, so we don't, I mean, they're still gonna be on the edge of the road. But they won't have that concern of the overlap situation if we don't move the field, we just have to get the net, they'll coordinate and get the nets out of the way.
I don't see it as an either or, you know, lacrosse, flag football, here are the options. What can you work out?
But I'm saying, those are really the only two options, am I correct?
Yeah.
That's it, if the field fits in there, then,
Yeah.
If the
then
field
it's
fits,
on a,
then
it's on a situation.
It's just no situation, they all
Okay,
just agree
yeah.
that they have their space. You
Yeah,
might have to
if
move one
it
or-
doesn't, then it's a question, do we put then, if it doesn't fit, do we then try to work with lacrosse early and football later on field 2?
Yeah.
Or we let them kind of negotiate times and let them work out the times instead of
Okay.
dictating earlier, later. One other thing, maybe Jason, you can answer. When you said earlier that the two goals are 10 feet deep, and there are 2 of them back to back, and there's a space in between, why can't those be pushed right up against each other back to back, so there's no space in between, and then you can pick up that at one end?
Because if a soccer ball is kicked, it's
Yep.
going to travel at least the soccer ball is gonna travel at least 60 feet.
So you're saying if it goes over the net?
If
Because
goes
if it goes
over
in the net, you don't have to worry about it. If it's
Yes.
outside the net,
If
you've
it's-
got 30 feet on each side. So the only place you'd,
So, in the spring, we tightened it up as much as we could.
okay,
And I'd have to double check, cause I always have to look at what the requirements
yeah,
are.
yeah,
But it ended up being like, it was almost like 60 feet, don't quote me. But it was like 60 feet where it was like 10 feet for the nets, then we had like 40 feet in the middle. Or it was like 50 feet with 10 feet. So it's written down of what the requirements are.
yeah.
Cause whenever, if you have like a big ball kick,
Yeah,
and they
I
miss
get
the
it,
net,
yeah,
it's
I
like
get it.
field goal kicks.
Yep, I get it.
For like
It's-
football,
yeah.
the ball will travel.
Right, but it's at least minimized when it's, because that's only when it's going over the net. Any other area, it's gonna have the full 60 feet or whatever you want. It's just, and if they're going in the net, it doesn't matter anyways, because it's not, so it's a kick that's really, it's a high kick over the net that could go in the other playing field.
Or on the sides of the net, or
Yeah.
like passes, like anything on the end line.
Right,
The only way.
but you're gonna
that-
have your distance on the end line anyways, because you're still gonna have your full distance, you'll still have, even if you put them back to back,
You'll only have 20
you're gonna have
feet.
20 feet, yeah, okay, so, and that's, you don't know if that's regulation or not.
It's what they end up doing, cause the only way we could shorten it is if we put like a barrier net.
A net, a raised net between.
Yeah, and then as the teams get younger, the width gets smaller, because they don't kick
They
as
don't kick as
far.
far, right, okay, all right.
The other possibility, just to toss out, for future thoughts, is reaching out to DPW, and if they have any clean fill, put it on the other side of the road at the end of fields 2 and fields 4. Because that is somewhat, not completely level, but it's dry land where that is the perfect width once it gets leveled off.
I tried over by the other side of the, where the gully is, and that will not, is not long enough not even close, we measured that out.
But that is a good idea to start bringing any extra fill over there.
Yeah.
As long as
There
it's
may be some
Clean.
environmental
Yeah.
complications to it.
So I will email all groups and update them saying that their applications for fields 1, 3, 4, 5A and 5B have been approved. Field 2 is just contingent on a meeting with Lacrosse and Seacoast to talk about possible options and see if we can work it out. And then I will email, you guys will all be copied on the email, as well as the groups, to make sure that everybody's clear on what's going on, and then try to set up a meeting with representative from Lacrosse and Seacoast to go up to the field sometime, preferably in the next couple of weeks, that we can coordinate. So there may be a few emails going back and forth just regarding to who's got time, and make sure, because I don't want to be the only person going out there.
I'll be happy to go with you, just, it'll be, with the weather the way it is, we may wanna drive some stakes in that where corners are, so.
Yeah, just try to get an idea of what we're looking at, yeah.
Yeah,
That's why I wanted, because Lacrosse can tell you, like when Jason went out, we kind of knew where the corner was, and was like, okay, we got it from here, and we're in the ballpark, we get an idea, so. All right, I'll do that. So the only other thing on the agenda was the use of the coffee truck at the field on mornings on the weekends. The Board of Health has approved it, they said it is fine to be done, there's not an issue there, so really the only question is, we know we wanted one of the groups, and I think it was Lacrosse actually, is the one that had expressed an interest in doing concession stands on the weekend. They're not here to say, so the question is, do I have to get back to the group to say, do we want to allow them to do it? Or do we want to have them coordinate with the groups?
can we table it and get Triton Lacrosse in here to,
I don't know if I can wait till the 7th.
I think the last conversation we
There-
had,
is there not gonna be?
The office has been asking, or wanted a decision to say what was going on. Granted, it's still early, we don't open till after April 1st, so.
I think the discussion that we had was that the best way to do it would be to, if there was permission granted by the Board of Health, which we've now realized there is is to allow the groups to contact her if they want her, and if they don't, then if they wanted their own concession stand, they would let her know, and that could coordinate it between the groups and herself.
Send a separate email out saying this is it, and I'll have to get, the individual's information, email, so I can make sure they're included in the information, so.
Yeah, because if we let them coordinate it, they'll know if they, you know, for someone who has nothing, that would be a nice thing to have the truck there and have availability for coffee and other things for the earlier games. But if somebody who already has something planned, they're not gonna want the truck there in competition with them.
No,
So
and that's what I wanna make sure,
right,
so.
so that they can kind of work that with them herself, themselves.
I will email the groups, CC everybody here, and try to get the information for the coffee person, so they can kind of coordinate it and give them a timeline, say if you want to do this, we need to know before March 7th, or our next meeting, which I'm going to ask in a second, so we can find out what's the best way to go.
Can we just second your proposal?
Yes.
And I second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I'll have both emails out in the next couple of days, and try to schedule the meeting out in the field. The last piece of business is our next meeting, the first Monday of the month is March 7th. Does that work for everybody? I already had it on my calendar, so I just, because we're going through. Dave?
Monday works for me. Do we need one that quick? I mean,
We need to start
It's the
talking
9th.
about, we need to start, I mean, it's the 9th now, but we just did it, I mean, it's
yeah,
less than 4 weeks away.
okay,
We've
yeah,
been 4 weeks as of Monday,
all right.
so we're just under the 4-week thing, and we're gonna need to start talking about the fieldhouse policies and get that stuff done.
You okay? Yep.
That's
Okay.
kind of that, the only items that I have as of right now will be that and any last minute changes to the schedule for the spring. I mean, granted, that can change, but that's what I have right now. So hopefully the plan will be to finalize the application process, make sure everything's all said and done, there's not anything changing, and then hopefully post the information on the board. If someone's got a laptop that would work, mine, unfortunately, the keys will be driving me nuts. So I'll need someone to drive that meeting, drive that,
Meeting?
one on the 7th.
You will,
We want to try to look into the application, the policy. So I just gonna need someone to drive that, we can sit and talk through it, but hopefully connect to the board.
Should we call Mariah up and have her come back?
I know.
She wants a guest lecture for the day. But that's kind of the plan, so does March 7th work for everybody?
Does this work with that, I assume?
I have no idea.
I assume that's what that does.
If it does, that's great, I can try and see if I can get somebody, or somebody wants to reach out to the town to find out if those work, that would be better. I just know I got 3 or 4 keys that you use all the time that
Okay.
have been banged, and that's why you'd bring a keyboard, but, all right, so our next meeting is scheduled for Monday, March 7th from 6 to 7:30.
Yep.
Okay. Other than that, do we got a motion to close at 6:30?
I'll make a motion to close the meeting at 6:30.
Any second?
Sorry.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's closed.
29 minutes, baby.